Hello and welcome. Another edition of our College Coaches Corner. This week we're going to be talking show ball showcases, and we're going to be talking to coaches over the next few weeks that will be out and about at the 9 locations that show ball covers throughout the course of the summer and into the fall. We're going to be talking something that's near and dear to my heart, NCAA Division III baseball, and something that I coached for many years. And we're going to be talking to a head coach that not only is a tremendous head coach, but was an elite college athlete at the University of Connecticut, 4-year starter, also professional player within the Boston Red Sox system, former Bates head coach, now current head coach at Middlebury College, located in Vermont, Mike Leonard. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. My pleasure.
One of the things, Mike, that I would love to kind of start with is, we're in June and it's kind of what I call recruiting season. And I would love to start with, during the next few weeks, what is it that you do as a staff to begin to identify student athletes that would be a fit at Middlebury? And does it really start first and foremost with the pre-reads with regard to the transcripts, or is it more the athletic identification and then you go to the pre-reads?
Yeah, I always describe it as a dynamic process, right? It doesn't start kind of at one place and flow through. Players are kind of entering our recruiting picture from multiple entry points. And then along the way, there are definitely steps, right? And I think that simultaneous evaluation of, the person and who they are and what they're going to contribute to our team and our culture and our program, what they bring as an athlete, and certainly what they bring as a student. All of those things ultimately lead to us deciding whether or not they're going to be a fit in our recruiting class. And we have to move through all 3 of those. The how and when of that is dynamic and is different. I think there are players that are in our pipeline right now that maybe we saw at a recruiting event last summer. They might be a player who visited our campus as a freshman or a sophomore. So they kind of showed some interest early on. We still receive emails and we still respond to all those emails. So there are certainly students who are just coming to us with a general interest. And then this process of the summer recruiting circuit, where we are out and about at the various events that are out there. And there are a lot of them. We do our best to be at as many of them as possible. So we give ourselves the best chance to see, 1, as many players, and then 2, see some of those players multiple times, because baseball is a really challenging sport to make an evaluation on in a really small sample size, right? The showcase setting is one part of the evaluation, but it is very rare that is the one and only way that we will evaluate someone. It usually is this combination of meeting the student, talking with their coaches, maybe seeing them play again, cross-checking them with other coaches who have seen them, utilizing video. So there's a lot that goes into it, because at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in our success of our program has a lot to do with the people that are in it. And I love every single player we've had in our program, that we currently have in our program. And I'm always more concerned about what they're going to bring as a person to our team and our culture, and how they're going to make that better than how fast they run, how hard they throw a ball, or, whatever they do at some showcase. That's never going to be the only factor that moves someone into our recruiting process.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the success at Middlebury, because, this is something that I try to stress to families, is really understanding, not only the staff and obviously the campus and the school. Middlebury, Final Four participant in the NESCAC, which NESCAC conference, arguably, I like to say it's really this Division III program that's really a Division I mid-major caliber athletics conference. 8 out of 10 years, you're in the Final Four of the NESCAC. You've won the NESCAC championship, I believe, 22, 23, 25, or 24, 25. So it's a highly successful program, and you have familiarity with the NESCAC, having been at Bates prior to Middlebury. Talk a little bit about the competitiveness of the conference, regardless of the sport. The NESCAC conference is really an elite conference, both academically, obviously, but more importantly, athletically.
Yeah, I mean, it's a ton of fun. I think it's a grind in the moment, but I think the conference creates this really cool experience that students have that then they utilize beyond, right? I know we have multiple players who now have coworkers and colleagues and maybe even spouses who were student athletes at other NESCAC schools. So there is something really unique and special about playing a sport in this conference, and it makes the rivalries and the games really, really competitive. The way that I've described our conference is, the floor is really high. There is not a weekend that you go into where you're competing against someone in the league and feeling like there's a giant disparity in talent and ability. I think all 10 of the participating baseball schools really have solid rosters top to bottom. We have really good coaches across the league. So to create an advantage and create an edge, you have to really kind of look at like, what are the things under your control? And each of our institutions are really different and unique. So they present unique opportunities and unique challenges. One of the things that I've loved here at Middlebury is that we have a pretty awesome athletics culture and infrastructure to build off of. That was one of the things that drew me here when I took this job in 2016, was really thinking of how do you build on the success of some of our other sports and some of the infrastructure that we have in terms of facilities and alumni engagement, and put that into practice with the baseball program. And I'm proud of the success we had. If I was, being totally honest, I don't think I would have expected our success to come that quickly in that first season, but huge testament to the leadership and the players on that first team that I had here of just buying in right away and kind of carrying us to the NESCAC finals in that first year. And since then, we've really just tried to double down on the things that, I feel are part of my core coaching philosophy, and the things that are under our control is we start with the relationships and really try to foster that every player in our program is going to invest in their teammates. They're coming here, we hope, for a 4-year experience, and we want those relationships to extend beyond. We think that's a distinctive, factor of playing at a high academic school. And then the other piece is our player development. We want every single one of them to be a better version of themselves by the time they graduate, as a person, how they handle failure, leadership, the way they communicate, all of those important life skills that sports teaches. So they should be stronger and better at those things by the time they leave. We definitely want them to be better athletes. So how do we build a better athlete? And how do we build a team that can handle the ups and downs and the challenges that come with playing baseball in the Northeast, which it might be 30, it might be 70, it might be raining, you might get rescheduled, you might be on a bus, like all of those things come with it. And I think we've done a really good job of that. And we, as coaches, any coach who's successful, you're only successful because your players do the work. And the players that I've had here are phenomenal people. They've worked really hard. They've built this into something special. And now it's cool to be 10 years in to see this cohort of alums who have all played for me and had this experience now be really excited about how do we give back? How do we make it even better? And that looks like a lot of things, certainly the career networking and just the mentoring that can happen from, someone who's now, 8 to 10 years out of college. I'm looking at them, remembering when they were college kids, and now they're like, hey, coach, I'm in like my, third or fourth job, and I got a couple kids now, and it's a totally different person who I can connect to our team to just talk about what playing college sports means. So it's been super fulfilling.
I really want to touch upon that, because I think that's what makes Division III or the academic, athletic culture really dynamic and really kind of special as they become alums and they become spouses and parents. Talk a little bit about Middlebury, obviously located in Vermont. And, obviously when we're talking parents, we try to get them to understand, yes, weather is cold in New England. That's common. But really, it's a beautiful, spectacularly beautiful campus. And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about the campus, the community that the campus is located in, and what makes that campus special for as a student that's going to spend 4, possibly 5 years, in Vermont at Middlebury.
Yeah, I think a couple of the factors that immediately come to mind is just the environment that you're going to see in your day to day. As you walk around, you're going to see open spaces, you're going to see mountains, you're going to see green, right? When you're in the summer and the spring, you're going to see all the colors, on the trees in the fall. And I think that piece, that kind of like openness, that space, that natural beauty is really present everywhere on our campus and creates just a stark contrast to, a number of other environments. And not to say those environments are better or for worse. It's just a unique part of being here. As you walk around, you can't help but kind of feel the way that Vermont is integrated into campus. The other aspect is the way that the college was founded. We were founded, as the town's college in 1800. So the integration of a small town in Vermont to a college community is really, really neat and fun. And I think it's one of the few places that you can, walk through town. And if you are a Middlebury College athlete, like that carries the same kind of weight as almost being like a professional sports, athlete, just because of the size of our town. And we have, proximity to schools and youth programs and access to really doing some cool work. So I think as a student, you feel like you're in, a broader community. So I think oftentimes at small schools, it's like the campus is its bubble and what's around it and how do I integrate into that. And for some schools, there's multiple colleges and universities right around them. So you're kind of interacting with all those other colleges and universities. We don't have that. We are, the town of Middlebury and Middlebury College in this small state of Vermont, but there comes like a really fun, cohesion and integration and kind of a depth to that relationship that I think is super unique. And then, I think our athletic facilities certainly signal to any student that comes here that they can invest.
Let's talk a little bit about the academic component. I think that sometimes then is an intimidation factor that a lot of families and athletes deal with. And I don't know if Middlebury works off of the band system, the A band, the B band, or C band, but coaching support, applications, and the roster construction. I know yours is, all over the country from California to Maine. Talk a little bit about the academic. We talk metrics and we usually talk them athletically, but what are some of the metrics that kind of are the foundation or the floor at Middlebury that you're looking at when you are starting to recruit a potential student athlete?
Yeah, I'll intentionally be a little vague with this just because I think like some of those conversations are left to me to be had with our admissions office and some of those to be, me to be had with a prospective student. But I will give kind of like the general blanket statement that we are certainly recruiting, nationally and internationally. We love kind of having those different baseball experiences. And that is really, really fun for us to have a team full of people who played baseball from different states and in different cultures and everything else. So I think that makes the team really fun. On the pure academic side, we do have the ability to kind of go out and recruit and kind of engage in that process of, communicating with the admissions office. And we do have the ability to support athletes. And what makes a strong profile is we're looking for students who are high achievers in the classroom who are challenging themselves. We are test optional. So students who choose not to submit their SAT or ACT, that's not factored in. If they do choose to submit them, it could potentially, be, another part of their academic profile that could potentially help them. But it gets more and more competitive. We're looking at students all across the country and they're saying, hey, I'm a solid A-B student. And we are looking for those students who are mostly A's, who are taking challenging courses, who are at the top of their class. Not every single person on our campus is that valedictorian perfect test score, because there's a lot of other things that are really, really important to having a really dynamic campus culture. Part of that is the athletic piece. And that's where I think for me as a coach is I'm looking for those, really cool, distinctive characteristics in our class to really put that stamp on things. But if they're not above kind of where the bar is, then it's moot. And I would say that any student who's kind of looking at schools like the NESCACs or the Ivies or the UAA schools, like, quick look at what the average test score and, mean GPA, that's publicly available knowledge. People can go look at that. And that gives you at least the range of like, hey, where do I fit in? I would say it's a misnomer that like, as a coach, you can just kind of go get whoever you want in because they're really good at baseball, nor would we want to do that because we ultimately want people who can succeed here and want to be here. And usually those are students that have challenged themselves through their high school courses that make them really, really prepared to be here.
So I really now want to kind of really get parents and athletes to understand the caliber of play. Now, you played at UConn, Big East baseball, Coach Penders. I've known about UConn for decades, all the way back to Coach Blaylock, way back in the day when dinosaurs roamed the earth. But talk about Division III, all of college baseball. Let's just say all of college baseball, for the most part. The floor is constantly being elevated. So there really is no longer, like when I was coaching at like no longer existing Becker College, there was a distinct floor between Becker and UConn. But one could make an argument that a NESCAC school could go play Holy Cross or a Patriot League school and be competitive. And, I think it would be fairly equal depending upon arms in the bullpen and so forth. But talk about the caliber of play across Division III baseball and how it's constantly being elevated. And we have Division III athletes going to Division I athletes coming to Division III. So they're really, the lines are being blurred. So talk about the caliber of athlete that is now playing not only in the NESCAC, but Division III at like Endicott or Salve and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're seeing a lot of is just the general ability to train and develop athletes like across levels. The high school athlete is getting, totally different coaching and training than what high school athletes got when I was in high school. And I think you're seeing that now come over to, Division IIIs are doing a lot of the same strength and conditioning and player development that you used to only see at Division I. And I think that's what's blurred a lot of the lines. I think you're also seeing a lot of really, really talented coaches and really capable coaches coaching at all different levels, and trying to find where the best fit for them and their personal life and the school and everything else. So you have this, conglomeration of Division I, II, III, where you see some of these teams is like, wait, that's a Division III team? Like, holy cow, like they're really good. I mean, at the end of the day, I think baseball is pretty universal, and the teams that throw strikes and field the ball and put balls in play. Like, so some of those absolutes are still there. I think you are seeing metrics at some levels of Division III that now rival some of the metrics, some of the average velocities you'll see from pitchers and, the way guys can hit the ball and how hard they hit the ball. I think you're seeing more and more of that. And what is really fun for me about baseball is you can take two high school seniors who have the exact same height, the exact same weight, the exact same metrics, whatever it might be, and their trajectory for how they develop and what they become as a college player could look totally different.
So true.
It's still kind of a beautiful sport for that. And I think keeps people like me at the Division III level always feeling like, yeah, we might not get the kid who's, 95 to 100 as a high school senior, but who knows? I can take this big, tall kid who was, an 84-mile-an-hour thrower as a high school senior, and he gets bigger, stronger. And, before you know it, you have some of these kids like, there was someone at Haverford, a number of years back who ended up pitching in the big leagues for the Yankees. And you're watching someone throw 100 miles an hour in Division III baseball. And you're like, wait, how did no Division I see this? And I think that's a testament to that kid and that, coaching staff and just the, randomness at times with how the development happens. And I think that's why you see so much range. I will say, we've been really lucky. I mean, we had some players that had that grad school eligibility because they were at Middlebury during COVID and lost years. And they took that eligibility and did some pretty cool things with it and went to some really high level Division I schools. They're going to Cal and Nevada and East Carolina and UConn. And it was really neat to see their skill set and their ability really play at some high levels of Division I baseball, and a testament to those guys and working and developing and building themselves into that level of player. Because I think you could ask any one of them and say, hey, out of high school, do you think you could play at these type of schools? And, they'd be lying if they said, yeah, I'm that good. But by the time they graduated, they were absolutely that good, and they deserved every part of the experience they got in grad school.
Now, let's follow that up with the potential probable 5-5 at the NCAA, at least for now, Division I level, maybe Division II next year. I think everybody will follow at some point, but at least on the surface, as we're talking today, do you foresee more and more athletes that are doing the Division III, getting their undergraduate degree and then potentially that fifth year at possibly an Ivy or a Patriot or a Cal or a Duke or a Vanderbilt? Do you foresee a lot of that happening in the future if and when that 5-5 does pass?
Yeah, I think my initial feeling on that policy is it's probably a good one for us. I think we never will fault a player, and we've had a couple of them over the years who say, hey, coach, like I had a really good year here. I want to see if I can go, get some scholarship money. I want to see if I can go, chase this Division I experience. And I think under the current format, there's not a grad school option unless they're, unfortunately hurt, right? And they can recoup a year that way. So I think if you give them that fifth year, they're now able to kind of invest in a 4-year experience, with those relationships with teammates, build, develop as a player. And if they've earned the right to go be a grad student and a high contributor at a really good school, great, good for them. So I think initially it's something that I think would be a good thing for us. We definitely would love to try to preserve that 4-year arc of development, that 4-year contribution to a program. Because baseball is not a straight line, right? I think that having success at one point during your career does not automatically mean it's going to continue to go up that way. There's going to be ups and downs. And what I love about, being able to lead a program and coach the people that I coach is we want to help them through those ups and downs. And hopefully at the end, when they're seniors, they're contributing in a big way and helping us win championships. And I think being able to work through kind of that freshman, sophomore, junior year gives us a lot of ability to really help them with that. And it also certainly benefits our program to keep players in it for 4 years. They value those relationships with each other. And I think there's something still really special about having, that group of teammates that I've gotten to know over these 4 years that I will continue to be best friends with when I graduate.
Final question, because I know a lot of parents are going to be asking, if somebody wants to get on your radar, on Middlebury's radar, can you give them kind of the blueprint? What's the best path forward? Is it email? Is it transcript and a video? Is it show up at a camp? What is the best way for a student athlete that may be watching and listening? Hey, I really love what Coach Leonard has to say. How do I get on their radar? What would you suggest for those student athletes to reach out to you?
Yeah, two-part for sure. I mean, one, they have to be in touch with us and we have to have their information, right? So we definitely have a system where we want to collect their, personal information, who they are, their email address, where they're from, what high school they go to, and their academic information. So we'll need that at some point. Not every student has that yet, or they're maybe waiting for that, but like that first step of emailing us, filling out our questionnaire, getting in our system is critical. Some athletes, we see them play first, right? So before they've completed that step, we saw them at a camp, a tournament. We got a recommendation from someone like you, said, hey, I got a really talented kid. He's high academic. We get on the phone with him. So sometimes there's like an athletic connection first, but it will always follow really closely by that. Hey, complete our questionnaire, be in touch with us by email. So we have you able to move on to that next phase of the process if we determine that that's a good fit for both of us. In terms of where we want to evaluate guys, I mean, we're everywhere. And I think that in the current climate, there's a lot of places that, parents and families can go and a lot of ways they can spend their resources. I don't think there's one right way to do it, but I do think it's really challenging to evaluate someone and make them one of our recruited athletes if we have not seen them in person and if we have not spent time with them in person. Are there kids on our roster who we did not see play in person, but I got enough recommendation from people that I trust. And then I met with them and I met with their family and determined it was a good fit. Like, yeah, there are some kids on our roster that way. And there are also a lot of kids on our roster that we saw at showcases and camps and tournaments and everything like that. Families do not need to do all of it. I think some of this is, be efficient and try to make the right decisions in terms of getting in front of people at the right time. But I will, definitely say that like it's not a perfect science. We're humans, and when you're at certain events on certain days, it's just the conditions might not be perfect for us to get the best view of what your athlete can do, because it's 110 degrees or it's raining or there's 300 people at it, and sometimes the conditions aren't right. So being really intentional with, hey, what does this school need to see from me, and what might be the best environment for them to see me? Some kids are really well suited to be at a showcase and stand out. Others are not. I think camps are also potentially really helpful. But again, some of those aren't either. So there's not a one size fits all, but it certainly does require those two parts. There has to be an email and a, recruit questionnaire completion for us, because we need that information. And we will want to do everything we can to see, that athlete play.
Well, I want to let parents and athletes know all of Coach Leonard's contact information with regard to email, and I'll also have all of the Middlebury College dynamics and aspects located in the description below. I strongly suggest, if you are a parent or you are a student athlete that really values academics, strong academics with a strong athletic kind of 4-year experience at the collegiate level, Coach Leonard and Middlebury are elite in every sense of the word, as a mentor, as a man, and most importantly, as a baseball guy. Mike, I want to say thank you for taking the time. I know it's very busy. We're off to the portal season and it's summertime. So best of luck over the summer, and obviously continued success at Middlebury.
Thanks so much, Walter.